Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are discussing design hacks, tips and tools for marketers.
Yes, so this one is from the fact that lots of us marketers and lots of people in different related roles will be going through and doing lots of graphic manipulation, outputting social posts, all those kind of things all the time. I look over my shoulder and Lou is constantly manipulating one graphic or another with our brand on the screen. And then I try and do it and I do a horrible, horrible job and get told off by our managing director who looks after our brand a lot as well. So I think there's more and more tools out there and it's really trying to give people a bit of guidance on what we think the best tools are, some tips that we've learned along the way. So where would you like to start this one, Lou?
So I think if we start with Canva, because they've obviously, that you can get an individual pro account, but you can get a team account as well. And a lot of the
Big
stuff on there
right?
that they've introduced recently is really good. So there's a part of Canva, which is, I think if you go to canva.com/apps, and there's a bunch of different apps that you can integrate. So for example, they also integrate with DALL-E.
Oh, okay.
So directly from within Canva, you can generate AI images.
Nice.
They've also got a tool called Smart Mockups.
Yeah, I was playing with this because I've seen this in loads of other tools before that we've looked at, but it's really useful having it inside Canva. So yeah, explain to people what it does.
It's really good. So you can basically choose from like different apparel, different clothing, packaging, posters, t-shirts, screens,
Pamphlets, booklets, brochures.
All the latest digital media there, Kieran. Thank you.
It's all important. It's not necessarily digital,
No,
right? But it's don't be so digital centric.
I haven't heard the word pamphlets in a long time. That's all. Pamphlets. I like it.
I'd like to say it.
There you go.
Yeah, it's got loads of stuff, but it's really easy to use, as everything on Canva is. It's like drag and drop, but it's really good for obviously mocking up different things.
It does the perspective and stuff, doesn't it? So you give it a screenshot maybe to put onto a screen, but it will change the angle and the perspective and all that kind of stuff. So
we've used it for like PDF documents. They don't look that great on a screen, do they? But you can make it look like a booklet.
Yeah, looks really
nice.
nice.
Effectively it is, and it just brings it alive. Makes
and if you use it on a landing page or something like that, that really works, making people want it. There's a really interesting thing that Harvard Business Review have done recently, where they've done their newsletter, but they've made it look like a kind of a book, like a booklet. And it's got huge levels of sign up because somehow a book feels quite desirable as opposed to, it's just a newsletter. So it's quite a clever move. So yeah, really interesting.
And off the back of that, you could go one step further and actually print the thing and make it look like that. And
always consider your carbon footprint though. So yeah, I do love printed things, but I also think, we've moved away a lot from doing that in some cases, but still a physical book that you can highlight stuff in. And when we send out books that have been signed, has a huge impact as well. So yeah, definitely worth looking at.
They're distraction free.
Yeah, that's very true.
And there's different images of people doing certain things. There might be like a woman behind a laptop and, we can get her reading our benchmark or doing our benchmark.
Exactly.
So that's really good. There's a tool called Typecraft, which I really like. And it's one for people who sort of like a lot of the stuff that you can do on Photoshop and InDesign. So when you're like warping different text, there's a tool that you can just drag into Canva, and it's literally, again, really simple, drag and drop. You can just...
So what sort of things would I do with that? How does that look?
So I think in terms of like creating cool posters and stuff, so you can type whatever you want into it, you can choose your font, and then it basically gives you a preview, and it's got little points that you just drag.
Okay.
And you can just curve it into whatever shape you want, and then you just put it on your Canva design.
It was one of those things that was missing from Canva to allow you to manipulate things in that way as well. So it gives you a bit more design flexibility from that point of view.
Office word art, but really good.
Yeah.
You can also output stuff that looks just like Office word art as well if you're not careful. Okay. So yeah, that's very true.
Sorry, Office.
Also, if you go to canva.com/colours, I think this was really good because within Canva, within the brand kit, that's a really good tool to use because you can upload your logo, all of your brand colours, all of your fonts.
Stock photography, you can add your own library of stuff in there as well.
And you can use it with all of your Canva designs, and you could take a Canva template and just press add brand, and it will turn everything into brand colours.
When I did this was amazing. And I think we talk about hub and spoke approach to social media. So the idea that at the centre, you've got a social media calendar, you have got a social media policy, but also you need some sort of repository or library that if other people want to do social media within your organisation, they have the right stock photography, the right branding, all that kind of stuff. And it makes it way easier to get lots of people in the organisation involved and say, as long as you stick within our social media policy and you use our toolkit brand, you can go away and you can potentially publish things and so on as well. So I think it's that team functionality is one of the really big useful aspects that I've seen in Canva recently.
And so if you're just starting creating your brand, if you go to canva.com/colors, you can basically upload your logo and it will give you a recommended color palette.
Nice.
Or you can give it different prompts. So you can describe your brand in certain ways and it will suggest color palettes to you as well. And you can learn all about sort of color theory and which colors work together and stuff. Excellent. And I hadn't known about that before, so I think it's really good.
Really interesting.
Canva also acquired Flourish, which is essentially, sometimes you see the really engaging data visualization graphs. Yes. So, for example, they used it a lot to show the different countries how many COVID cases they had.
Yes.
And it's constantly moving and the bars are going up and down depending on. So a UK company called Flourish does that, and Canva recently acquired it. So if you have a Flourish account, you can create those and you can do loads of stuff with it and you can integrate them into your Canva presentation.
And is it animated or is it kind of static images?
Animated.
Oh,
wow.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Now, I've just noticed one on your list here as well that I think you skipped over, which I think you probably, because you didn't want Kieran to go on about it too much, but there's a quick QR art. So Kieran loves a QR code. I mean, people that haven't been listening for that long might not be aware other than me mocking you for it.
Yeah, we
You
don't
do love
talk,
the QR
because I've won that argument. We don't tend to talk about it as much, Daniel.
Did you like what you did there? It's funny. It took a pandemic for you to win that argument.
It did.
So, but there you go.
It was a long time in the wilderness
was.
with QR codes.
But no, quick QR art, that's a good one as well. It's based on AI, but you just type a prompt into it based on like a visualization you want. So you might want like a sunset on a beach and it will just create a nice QR graphic.
Brilliant stuff. Love it.
Can I just say, top tip with QR codes, shorten them. Shorten the URL you're using before you create the QR code. It just looks so much better. The more information in a QR code, the bigger and uglier it gets. Right, so if you can reduce that,
Okay.
So if you can reduce that down to use something like Bitly,
It'll be simpler, basically.
It's much simpler, and then create the QR code off of that. Way better.
That is a top tip. Very good. So, I mean, in line with that one, we've also got Adobe have factored things in some of their tools, and they've got Firefly. So Firefly integrates into Photoshop and a few other things, but it allows you to kind of go into an image, drag over the top of it, and then say, make this a sunset. And take this bit and change this or whatever it may be as well. So they're starting to roll it out into their tools as you go through as well. But I was really impressed to see some of that functionality within Canva in there as well. Okay, there's one on my list here now that Kieran has been going on about the last 10 minutes as well. So language tool.
Oh, so good.
How is this related to graphics? Is it just kind of helping us to...
Because it integrates with everything. So
right, okay.
For a long time, I was a real Grammarly convert.
Yep.
And I used to pay for Grammarly Pro, but it got really expensive.
Okay.
And I was recommended Language Tool, and I thought, I'll give it a go. It's amazing. It's amazing. What I love is they've got dedicated app for Windows, Mac OS, iOS.
And it's a browser thing that goes in the browsers, right?
It plugs into all the browsers. It will plug in and integrate to all the major Office suites. And the fact that I can have it on my laptop and on my phone. I remember when I was at school, I suppose I was one of the first generations where you and I both were, where in the future, computers will do the writing for you. So, you just get the ideas down. That was what we were encouraged to do. To my detriment, actually, because my spelling left unchecked is atrocious. Yeah. But, this tool helps. But what I've recognized is increasingly, I need that everywhere. It's so easy when you're in a rush to make, to type things sloppy, or autocorrect does all sorts of weird and wonderful things with it. And we've all seen the horrific screenshots that circle around the internet of horrible mistakes that it's made. And this just captures them all. And what I love, a lot of these tools sometimes they get in the way.
Yeah.
But with this, it's just single click. It understands context. So it'll give you not just obvious close derivatives of the word, but it'll understand different contexts. There's a really great grammar checker in there as well. And I've made my writing, I hope, bulletproof, because everywhere I am writing, it is. So it integrates with my browser.
AI powered as well, isn't it? Because we haven't said the word AI for at least 5 minutes. I wanted to get it in there again.
I'm glad I can breathe a sigh of relief.
You're so pleased.
Also, it does it in multiple languages, which is really impressive. They've got Teams editions. Check it out. I think the free version is brilliant. I was using that for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I've chosen to subscribe to an annual license. I think it's under 60.
It was $499 a month.
$60,
And I think there's also a team version that does various different things as well. So you've got license control. So it's languagetool.org. So take a look at that one as well. We mentioned mockup seeing Canva a minute ago. There's that other one, Free Pick. So Free Pick is a mock-up generator, but it's a free one, as you would kind of assume. But that's got some really interesting stuff. So if you haven't got a Canva account and you wanted to do some mock-ups, that's a good way to go as well.
That's also it's a really good one for doing like product-based stuff.
Yeah.
So you can put everything on your packaging, but it gives you loads of variety. You can change the background and change like the drop shadows to make it all look nice.
Yeah,
It's just a really good tool.
I was playing around with it to mock up some mugs, some Target Internet mugs, and it actually does a really nice kind of job of that as well. While we're there, actually, that's a good point. While we're there, if you would like to go and leave us a review in Apple Podcasts, in Google Reviews, you can review us in Google Reviews. You can give us the star rating in Spotify as well. If you do that for us and you send us a screenshot, so submit a screenshot to us, the first 20 people that we get in from doing those, we've got some swag. So we've got some new Target Internet memory sticks that have got USB and USB-C on them.
How big?
What's like 128 gig or something like that. They're quite powerful, big ones as well. So they're just good because, you've got that thing of like you need adapters for everything.
Yeah.
And then we've got a load of Target Internet mugs. So we'll send people a load of swag stuff as well. So go and leave us a review somewhere. Not going to tell you if it's a good or bad review. It's going to be an honest review. And then go through and give us a screenshot. targetinternet.com/podcast. You can find all our contact details. Send us through. We'll put you in a drawer for doing that. And invariably, there won't be that many people that do it because most people can't be bothered.
Yep.
So you're quite likely to get something if you do it. So send that through and we'd really appreciate it. And it really helps us in the charts and all those kind of things as well. Okay. Something I've seen that's really interesting is the new stuff that's coming from Google, this is a bit of a preview, but Google Lumiere, which is their video generation platform, which is kind of similar to OpenAI's Sora. What it's become really good at is you give it a source branded image and it will create branded images or videos in exactly that style. So what are the limitations of a lot of the AI generation tools at the moment is that they won't follow a particular style or color palette or anything like that. So it's quite hard to create like branded style images. But the stuff that's coming out from Google soon, the Lumiere stuff, will do that as well. But what we found is that if you go to the custom GPTs that you get in the OpenAI ChatGPT platform now, there are loads in there for trying to create branded images. And what they've done is they've created some really good prompts that will give you much better branded images than if you just went into DALL-E and tried to do it directly. So go to the GPT library that's in there. You need a paid account to do this. Find the image generation tools. And there's loads for creators. You give it a source image or your logo, and it'll output stuff that's kind of in the similar style and the right colors and those kind of things as well. So definitely worth looking at. We've got next on the list these bulletproof email buttons. Tell us about this because you were talking about this.
Been on a journey. So I was tasked with completely rebuilding an organization's marketing cloud Salesforce email.
So the email templates you're using.
The email templates, yeah.
See, I didn't think this was a big thing anymore, but you've told me and it's like, it is a big thing.
It is a big thing. So I mean, Marketing Cloud's fantastic as a platform. Really loving using it. It's very, very powerful. Until you start, one of the things they do, if you have the right account, they'll give you a free litmus account to integrate with it. And then you start testing out your emails to see how they look, and it all falls apart.
Really?
So there's a really interesting litmus article that I was reading, and we'll put it link to it in the show notes because it's a really good read on the challenges of like creating emails that work everywhere.
Right.
Did you have any idea how many different email client combinations there are in terms of your email platform and the software people use?
You told me this morning.
It's like 300,000 different variations.
And your emails will always look slightly different on every single one.
And like some of the worst, I mean, there's some ludicrous things. Like there doesn't appear to be any support for Google fonts in Gmail. It's like, what?
Yeah,
like if I've got that horribly wrong, but everywhere I look, everybody's going, hey, no, you can't do that. So you think, great, we'll use a Google font to get the right fonts, but no. So you have to have fallback fonts.
This is, by the way, this is the toned down version of Kieran talking about this because in the office this morning,
the air was swearing.
The air was blue this morning. So yeah.
One of the big problems I had, the designs required curved buttons, not square, curved, because they look nicer, right? Such a nightmare.
Really hard to do.
Yeah, really, really hard to do. I've been through, I think, 3 different code examples where people are going, I've created this bulletproof button. And when you test them, they all fall down. But I found this one tool, and again, hats off to Litmus, but right at the end of this blog post we're going to link to, they reference this. It's called buttons.cm. So it's made by Campaign Monitor. And there's a guy, I think on social media, it goes with the like handle Stig. Stig, if you're listening, like, thank you so much. So this works in everything that I've tested it at, gives me rounded buttons. And it's just a simple tool they've created where you input the hex color code, the text you want, the link, the size, the padding, all of that you can control. And then it outputs you the code, which you can just pull straight into your template as a block and reuse again and again and again. And as far as I can see, it's absolutely bulletproof. And it's using a whole combination of things, but core to this is a thing called VML, which is a Microsoft markup language they use for Office.
And is it for vector kind of based images?
Yeah. The buttons just work. They are bulletproof. They look how they should. They don't fall apart. And that's the annoying thing when you're trying to get your designs right. And you will always have to make compromises. Watch out for dark mode. There's a whole new nightmare.
We had a really interesting experience of this last week. We were in a group and I said, well, look at the websites and try and do a bit of usability test, like a bit of a fun thing. And this guy was like, you've got no buttons on your website. I said, what do you mean? And he looked, no, of course we have. And he looked at it and went, what's going on? And he suddenly realized the guy was running in dark mode. Yeah. And I hadn't really thought about this as much, thinking what percentage of people actually do that? But it's significant enough that you probably need to test out your email designs when someone's in dark mode. Yeah. So you can see, actually, do they still work? Does it work? So it's a really interesting one. And actually, the whole website wasn't functional, but this person couldn't work out why. And then, okay, makes sense. So from that, you would kind of get into the whole CSS bit, right? Cascading style sheets.
Been on a whole journey with that. I've been teaching myself CSS in emails because it all has to be in line.
Yep.
It's a slightly different.
So it's not a separate file, is it?
It's part of the part of the template. I mean, lovely thing to learn. Lots of complexity. Really got stuck into it. But I found really super useful CSS Validator,
which is the W3C one, isn't it? It's the official one,
the Jigsaw one. So, like, check it out if you're doing any CSS or you've got CSS within your emails. Lift that code and copy and paste it into CSS Validator and just check it. Because if you've got certain errors within it, it might still work in a lot of clients, but it will fall over in others. And what I found, I was putting an inordinate amount of time into, well, why is that not working? When actually, if I just run it through CSS Validator, it tells you what things to fix, and then suddenly you don't have that problem. So sometimes you've created the problem, you're trying to find out code workarounds when really you just need to do decent code in the first place.
I mean, with all these skills, one thing to say as well, obviously, targetinternet.com, if you sign up, there's a 30-day free trial, and we've got tutorials on everything under the sun. We've got over 200 courses. We've got all the certifications and things now as well. But a good starting point for free is just to benchmark your skills or your team skills. And I think this is a really important point that you said to me, is that it's great benchmarking your team. It's great benchmarking your own skills. If you benchmark your team, you can work out how much they might be holding back your success, if you see what I mean.
Do you know what? It's so important. It doesn't matter how good a marketer you are. Invariably, you're managing a team.
Or working within a team.
Yeah. But do you know what? This is so relevant for now because lots of organizations are pulling stuff in-house.
Yeah,
there's a lot of agencies are really
social
struggling.
Social media, search optimization.
Let's pull it in-house. Great. But, rubbish in, rubbish out, and like, this stuff is changing all of the time. And it could be actually your team's not rubbish. They're just out of date.
Yeah.
And there are faster, better, quicker ways of doing this. And we find this all the time, don't we? So suddenly you oh gosh, this changes everything. If your team's not aware of that, then they're not necessarily putting in the effort, but they're not going to get the output. And that's going to affect you. It's going to affect your progression within the organization.
And your organization's success. We've done a thing now. You go through targetinternet.com/skills. And you can benchmark yourself, you can benchmark your team. If you benchmark your team, you've then got an interactive report that shows where your team is versus where the industry is. But you can also break down this thing that I thought was interesting, which is kind of quintiles, which is if you've got brilliant skills and I've got really low skills and we benchmark, you combine them, we're like middling, we think, well, that's quite good. But I want to see what that spread of skills is across the team. So you can now do that really clearly. And you can start to see the distribution of knowledge amongst your team, which is super helpful. And you might go, well, they're really low in pay-per-click, but they don't do it, so it doesn't matter. So you've got all that weighting data, all that kind of stuff. So it's completely free. You can do it for yourself, do it for your team, but it will give you some really deep insights now to that distribution of skills.
And after extra input, you can do it again. And then you've got benchmarked the growth, the improvement. And yes.
Yeah, I mean, we use that as a sales tool from the point of view, like benchmark yourself. Yeah. Right, you need to improve your skills. So you'll persuade people to sign up for Target Internet. But then afterwards, you can say, did Target Internet work? Benchmark again. There's no reason you couldn't do that with any number of it. That learning culture piece becomes really important.
I can tell you from experience, nothing like taking that into an annual review to show what value added you brought.
Yeah, that's it.
As a manager.
So great. So CSS, been a bit of a journey with that. The other one you've been talking about a lot, and we've mentioned this in another podcast, but we'll touch on it again, is Leonardo.ai, which is it sits on top of Midjourney, right? And gives you a load of controls over that, but it does give you some free credits.
Yeah, you get every day, you get new credits you can play around with. I'd encourage everybody to play.
Good for photorealistic stuff, you were saying?
Really great for photorealistic stuff. It'll even animate the creations. But what I most love, and we've mentioned this before, but I really love the fact that you can give it a reference photo.
Right.
So you've got a constant reference point. So it can produce multiple images all with the same character in them. And it's very, very effective.
So you've got that consistency then as well. Okay, brilliant. What is ilovepdf.com?
So if you love PDFs.
I love PDFs.
This is the site for you, Louise. Louise, you were looking at it this morning. Just tell us a bit more about it.
It's just the range of stuff you can do. Quite often PDFs can be quite difficult, especially if you don't have Acrobat or anything, and they can be quite stiff and you can't copy text and you can't amend anything. But on I Love PDF, you can just do anything with it.
So you can manipulate them without the need to have a full version of Adobe
Acrobat. You can convert it into a Word document, into a PowerPoint. You can add watermarks. Like there's about 50 different options you can do.
Because that is a problem. I mean, if you've got not the full version of Acrobat, you're kind of... I mean, Acrobat's brilliant, don't get me wrong. But it's not... Unless you've got a full Adobe subscription, you're not going to get the full version. And if you buy it standalone, it's not cheap either. So it does give you some more manipulation options for doing that. So brilliant. Nice little talk. Right. Cinemagraphs, these were front of mind for me because Lumiere, Google's new AI video tool, they've demonstrated how it will do cinemagraphs where you can select the bit of an image and it'll animate that bit of the image.
You select part of a video, don't you?
Well, with this one, it does it with an image and animates it. That's because it's AI. Yeah. But you've got this tool here, which is...
well, I just want to highlight it because in terms of design hacks and tips, right? I used to go through this on training programs for people. With the human eye, more of it is dedicated to spotting movement than actually absorbing the actual image itself.
So you don't get eaten by prey.
Exactly.
By a predator, sorry.
So if you can create movement, then great. And that's why, guys, video works so well within campaigns because it's by its nature, there's movement within there. Part of the problem, though, is that actually it demands quite a lot of engagement to watch even a 15-second video, right? With this Cinemagraph, you've just got a small animated part. So they're super quick because they're quite compressed. There's only part of the image is animated.
And they loop as well, generally, don't they?
And they generally loop. But it's very eye-catching. And if you it is, for me, great marketing is all about tuning into people's dream-like state. We live in our imaginations. We love to imagine things. So much product marketing works on that. Imagine what it'd be like if you had the iPhone 156 or whatever number they are up to now. Like life would be so much better. But it's hard to get cut through, particularly within the nanoseconds that people flick through their social feeds.
It's trying to stop the scroll, right?
Really stop. And this is quite an old technology, like a Cinemagraph. They've been around since I think I first saw them back in 2010 or so. They were a real fad, weren't they? Everybody, all the big brands.
Because animated GIFs, everyone was using them.
Big beauty brands were doing them. But I think there's a real opportunity here. So Cinemagraph Pro, it's a Mac iOS app.
Okay.
And it just makes creating these super easy. You just need some video, which there's a section you can highlight that's got the movement in it. And it jars because your brain instantly recognizes, there's something not quite right there.
Right.
And that's enough to just get behind the conscious and get your message in.
That's fascinating. When something isn't quite right, makes you look at it more. Because I've been looking at some of these, we were looking this morning at the Sora videos, and you'll be watching, that's pretty cool. And then you go, wait a minute, there's 3 puppies. They've just turned into 4 puppies. How did that just work? What? My brain can't quite come back, but it makes you stop and stare for ages. So it's interesting. So, okay, there are some design hacks, tips and tools from us. We would like to hear from you as ever. If you've got a tool that you want to promote, get in contact. We'll have a look at it. But if you've done anything that you thought was pretty useful, then we always love to know about it. And we will kind of give you a feature and a shout out as well. As ever, you will get everything, targetinternet.com/podcast. All of those tools will be listed there, so you can grab those.
And if you go to targetinternet.com/toolkit, our online toolkit is there full of...
Yeah, so we've got loads of tools now. We're just doing an update to that at the moment. So there'll be loads of new tools on the toolkit. So great point.
And I've got a challenge for everybody.
Okay.
If you've been enjoying the shows recently, can you share them with other people you think would get a lot out of them? Because it would massively help us.
Yeah, it does. Actually, it's a good point because we've been asking people to share a load lately. So if you know anyone else, a marketer, designer, entrepreneur, anything, just share the podcast. That would really help us out. We'd appreciate that.
Freely give and watch greatness flow back.
So there you go. So there's a final thought for you. So thank you so much for listening to Digital Marketing Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.